looks like we have the representative of the applicant. Maybe it's the peer reviewer who is in the waiting room. That's it, though.
Brian's not with us.
Not yet. I am expecting him to join, though.
I'm going to start off with Norwalk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I am expecting Lisa and Mary to also join.
We need them.
Yes, definitely need at least one of them. Hi,
Good
Brian.
evening, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hey, David.
Brian.
Harry and John.
We now have a quorum.
We are being I've already turned on the recording and the live stream, just so everybody who just joined knows. So we have a quorum, although Lisa did say that she is going to join.
Well,
But we do have a quorum.
yeah, I'm going to go call the Norwalk Housing Corporation meeting to order.
Maybe let me let the people in the waiting room in first, and then you can.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, John.
Good evening. I'm going to call the Norwalk Housing Corporation meeting to order. Roll call present is myself, David Ugelman, and Mary Peniston. Any public participation in this meeting? I don't see any. I'll go on to administration. Approval of the minutes of the November 19th, 2025 special meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved, David. Anyone have any changes, corrections, comments about it? None? Okay.
None.
All in favor? Raise your hand. It's unanimous. We'll move on to the financials. We'll approve the Norwalk Housing Corporation Statement of Revenues and Expenditures and Balance Sheets for all funds year-to-date December 31st, 2025. Do I have a motion? Okay. All right. Mary?
So moved.
So David? With that, I'll turn it to you, Eugenia.
Okay. For the period year-to-date, December 31st, 2025, the Norwalk Operating Fund for 100 had revenues of 29,000 and expenses of 2,000, which resulted in a net operating surplus of 27,000. The balance sheet for this fund had assets of 790,000, liabilities of 371,000, and net assets of 419,000. And the Norwalk Revolving Fund 450 had an operating surplus of $1,600. And the balance sheet for this fund had total assets of 121,000 and total liabilities and net assets of 121,000.
And that's it?
Yes.
Okay. So, we have a motion to approve the financials. Okay, everyone voted yes. So, there's no business, new business or old business. So I'll call for an adjournment of the Norwalk Housing Authority. I'll make the motion. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. And we'll move on. As of 5:34, we're starting the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of February 10th. Call it to order. Roll call. There's myself, John Igneri, David Ugelman, Mary Peniston. That makes a quorum. Anyone public participation on this? None? I don't hear any. So we'll move on to administration. Item 4A, approve the minutes of the December 9th, 2025 regular meeting. I'll make the motion. Anyone have any changes, comments, thoughts? None? All in favor? Minutes approved unanimously. We'll go on to the financials. Item B, approve the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency Statement of Revenues and Expenditures and Balance Sheets for all funds year to date, December 31st. I'll move that. Eugenia, back to you.
Yes, thank you. For year-to-date December 31st, the operating fund 100 had revenues of 772,000 versus a budget of 759,000 for a favorable variance of 13,000. Total actual expenditures were 848,000 versus a budget of 900,000 for a favorable variance of $51,000, which is primarily due to lower administrative expenses. The actual operating deficit of 75,000 versus a budgeted operating deficit of 140,000 resulted in a favorable variance of 65,000. And we'll go to the balance sheet for Fund 100. At December 31st, this fund had 3,601,000 in cash, accounts receivable due to other funds, property and equipment and right of use asset, and 659,000 in net loans receivable and other assets. This fund has 1,947,000 in total liabilities and 2,313,000 in net assets. The financial statements for the other funds are also attached, and there are no major variances except for Fund 300, which had an operating deficit of 114,000, which will be reimbursed by CDBG in the next drawdown. And Fund 500 programs, which had an operating deficit of 81,000, these were billed in February. That's it.
That's it. Any questions? Thoughts? No? All in favor of approving the financials? Unanimous? Now that we got the housekeeping taken care of, let's move on to business. It's the design review of 3 Isaac Street. Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
Actually, today I think John Hopkins from our office will provide just a brief overview of the work he's done with the applicant along with the third-party reviewer.
Okay,
And then we'll give a, actually, you know what, I think it might be best to do, we'll do a presentation first from the applicant, I apologize, and then John can give his overview, and then we'll go to the third-party reviewer. I think that'll probably be the best flow. If that works for the
Okay.
applicant team, are you guys available right now?
Yeah, that's fine. That works for us. Okay, great, thank you. Adam Blank, attorney for IJ Group Oz LLC, the owner of 3 Isaac Street. With me is MJ Michael Jakowski from the Sullivan Architectural Group. Ray Sullivan may also be on from there. And Jason Milligan, principal for the IJ Group, is also on with us. I'm going to give you just a fairly brief presentation, and then those folks, as well as me, can answer any questions that you may have. Let me just show. So I'm pulling up for you. This is a rendering of what the building will hopefully look like at 3 Isaac Street. We'll talk a little bit more about it and a few of the items that are sort of points of disagreement in a minute. We have been working with your staff and the peer reviewer, and there's very little that we don't agree on or haven't come to an agreement on. We've got just a couple of points that are sort of important to us. And although Mr. Milligan has in the past occasionally had some controversy with the city or the redevelopment authority, I think that you'd be hard pressed not to agree that over the last handful of years, if you drive through Wall Street, there's a significant number of properties that he has turned around, that he's cleaned up. The neighborhood starting to have an sort of that edgy, cool, and really harmonized feel to it. And that's due in large part to Jason's efforts. He's heavily invested in the neighborhood. I'd argue that he's far more invested in its success than your peer reviewer or staff. And that's not really meant to be a denigration or a criticism of them. It's just to point out the obvious. He's got tens of millions and going on hundreds of millions of dollars invested in the neighborhood. He sure cares about how this neighborhood looks and that it be a success. Um, the so in those few areas of pushback that you're going to hear from us, I think we're asking you first, just adhere to what's in the neighborhood, the neighborhood in the design review guidelines, and don't go beyond those. And you don't have authority for that anyway. And second, sure, impose conditions that ensure compliance with those guidelines, but give Jason the flexibility he needs to continue building out the Wall Street neighborhood based on the particular demands of his individual retailers and restaurant users and the specifics of each property, because each one's a little bit differently. This one, for example, is not your typical project. One, it's very small. This was an existing retail site that converting to add about 9 units of apartments. It's quite small. It was originally contemplated as essentially a renovation, and there were lots of issues with the foundation and with the structure itself, and the project kept ballooning as he had to modify the permits for it. So it's a larger job than was initially sort of spec'd out, but it's quite small in the grand scheme of things. And keep that in mind. It's not like a traditional raise everything, rip up all the asphalt and everything on the site and start from scratch. We have been working with the RDA and Mr. Fish, the peer reviewer, for the last couple months. We've agreed that the vast majority of the requests made, whether those were really mandated by the guidelines or just ones that we've agreed to because we thought they would be positive for the project, whether or not required. After we made a number of additional changes, I'll show you, we had gotten an email from your staff listing, sorry for that, listing, I don't know, about 12 or so items that they wanted us, that they were saying should be conditions of approval by you folks. In response to that list from the 2nd of February, we responded back the following day, agreeing to pretty much everything and providing revised drawings with just a few very minor well, minor, significant to us, but very small in the grand scheme of things, issues. One was there was a request for building entries along the side of the building to be served with sidewalks paved with concrete. Um, and also a request that the front building entry be served with a sidewalk paved with concrete. Um, those those were on those, we've agreed that we would delineate or differentiate the walking and vehicle areas with painting, like artistic painting, stamping. It might be pavement, it may be concrete, it may be permeable, it may be impermeable. We're not sure what it's going to ultimately look like, but we will agree to demarcate the sidewalk area from the walking area. Going back here, it's not demarcated now, but we will do that. But we want to have some flexibility as to exactly what that's going to look like as we get to the as we finish up development and have a tenant in mind for that front retail space. The and your guidelines, they require sidewalks linking those frontages. That's what they require. The guidelines don't have any requirements as to whether the materials are concrete or whether it's permeable or impermeable or pavers or stamped. And so we're willing to abide by the guidelines, of course, but we ask for that flexibility to just let us demarcate it in a reasonable manner. I think that was I think the main item, and that's still, I think, in your staff memo that you got after we responded. The only recommendations that your staff had were serve with a sidewalk and a sidewalk. So those were two. And plans coordinated, we don't have an issue with that. But up here, they talk about in the peer reviewer that we're proposing to pave the site with asphalt. Well, it's asphalt already. It's been asphalt. We weren't proposing to change that. So it likely remains asphalt, but we're willing to come up with some solution, but we don't want to be mandated to concrete or to pavers. We'll figure it out, but we will make it demarcated. Additionally, there's a talk here about the peer review recommends that the path be paved with concrete pavers and that the exterior color palette be lighter and softer than what was in the building materials legend. And I believe, and they're all here, so you'll hear from them, that there wasn't an issue with how the building looks color-wise on the renderings, but that the palette, which was a different document, made it appear a bit darker than what you see here. And I'm not sure what it ultimately will be and whether when it's painted on the building and how it will look in the light and whether it will be the lighter color or the darker color. But what I am sure of is that, when you're talking about grayish tan colors, your design review guidelines don't say it's got to be the lighter grayish tan than the darker. It's a very much a personal preference. The design review guidelines don't mandate a color, a mix of color. Obviously, if he was painting it pink, okay, maybe there's something there, but a little shade lighter or darker, I think you've got to give him the flexibility to go with what he likes. And again, we think this is how it will look, but maybe it'll look a little bit darker like the other matrix shows from that printout. So those were the only real conditions or issues that came up. We've got, and I'll just show you real quick on these renderings because we don't know what the tenant's going to be. So this shows it laid out with a couple of tables if it's a cafe or a coffee shop. We have another one with benches and a bike rack. If it's like a clothing shop, an alternative would be with clothing racks brought outside or some kind of displaying outside of the merchandise, particularly in the summer. But we'll kind of come up with something based on the tenant. That's my pretty quick overview. I think if I've missed anything, Jason or MJ can jump in. Otherwise, if you have questions for us, we'll take them, or you can hear from your staff and Mr. Fish, and then maybe we respond further.
I'll just add
Oh.
two quick pieces. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
First, the redevelopment agency and the city and the developer across the street are adding wide sidewalks where currently sidewalks don't exist, that are not part of this project, but are part of the neighborhood that we will benefit from, the neighborhood will benefit from. With there'll be concrete sidewalks and granite curbs, from what I understand, and those will be done in the very near term. So as we're getting our thing going, that'll tighten. So that was not in the third party reviewer's scope, I don't think. He may be aware of that tangentially, but that's something to note. And then the other thing is the driveway is complicated. There's 3 other properties that have rights to the driveway. It really can't be blocked unless you have a handshake agreement with everybody. You know, the rights were given in like early 1900s and they remain. So there's a lot more people involved. That's part of the request for the flexibility and not mandating certain changes. That's all.
Thank you.
Fish, do you want to give your analysis, maybe a little bit of overview about the specifics of the project as well, as you see them?
Jonathan, are you going to go first or?
I think Adam covered it pretty
Okay.
well. I would maybe just clarify what we're asking the commission, but Brian, do you want me to kind of summarize the memo or just have Frank?
I think it might be good if Frank, if you could go, and then John could
Yeah,
fill in the
yeah,
gaps.
okay. All right, good. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Frank Fish from BFJ Planning. We are the third-party reviewers that were referred to. And I want to say that we have been back and forth delving into this with the applicant, and particularly there are some easements on the property, understanding all of those. The major thing I do want to say is that overall, we do believe the building itself is a good design. They've responded to a lot of our comments. Our comments were aimed at just making the building as best possible building. We did comment that the sketch that you just saw from Adam, we like that, and we like the color palette on that very much, and that coloring is part of the design review issues, but we weren't sure that the color palette that was coordinated with the actual drawing. We like the colors chosen in the drawing. We think they're light enough, and that they will produce a good building. So they also align the windows at our request. We've got clarification on access to some of the gas meters. We think those work. And they also aligned, their architect showed how they've aligned the front facade with the roof, which was unclear at the beginning. So we do recommend overall approval of this, but we do have a couple of conditions that remain, which Adam Blank referred to, and the first one is still the access driveway. This is a somewhat unique position. We've looked into it. We think we understand as much as we can what's been presented to us. It's only 8 feet wide. Right now, as you saw from the three-dimensional sketch, it's all asphalt. We think that that is not the way to have your main entrance to the residential part of this building, which is sort of in the back of the building. It's going to be a shared driveway. It's 8 feet wide. The normal car itself is 6 feet wide. And a vehicle, and there's an easement over this property providing some access to the adjacent properties on Wall Street. If there's a light truck there, that's 6.5 feet wide, you have very little room. Now, fortunately, there probably won't be a lot of cars or vehicles, and this is a small building, and with the number of units, there won't be a lot of overlap, but there will be overlap between the people coming into the building, coming in and out of the building, and cars actually accessing or having the right to access other property. So we think that it is important, and we think that the Wall Street West design guidelines do address this, and that is you want an appropriate access to this that serves as a shared pathway, shared driveway. It's serving pedestrians, and namely, it's serving people that will live in the building, and also it's serving vehicles that are trying to serve other properties. We looked at the easement on this, and we do think that there is the possibility of putting the mailboxes where they have now done that. We made a suggestion that they be moved back a little bit. And I think Jason himself said that to his architects, that they try to move these mailboxes back so that they don't interfere with the driveway. Even 6 inches, even 10 inches to a foot matters here. We think, though, that the easement does not cover the very front access to the building. And therefore, there's some room there to put the mailboxes, to have the canopy, which they have put in, and we like that. And also, the trash receptacle is not, there is no trash receptacles on the site. And of course, they're asking for flexibility to not decide that right now. We think that there needs to be some answer to both the access, which we've suggested be pavers of some sort that will preferably be permeable, because this whole site is covered basically with material. So, and that the major thing we're concerned with is the safety of people entering the building, so that there be some differentiation of this way, so that as a driver comes onto the driveway, they recognize right away, hey, they're not just on a driveway, they're on a pedestrian access to the building. And that's important. I think the West Street design guidelines, the Wall Street West design guidelines cover this, and this is an important element. We also think there's room for some, not a lot, but some landscaping in front of the main pedestrian entrance, which is sort of at the back of the building where you get upstairs. And that's important to get something in there. So that's our suggestion is there should be a condition that they do come back to you with a solution to this. They don't have a demarcated solution now in our minds. And the second condition we would put on this, we think that, and we appreciate that they have done now different options, which we asked to see. Jason asked for flexibility on entering the building at the front. But right now, I think one of those options is not a particularly good one and doesn't meet the Wall Street West design guidelines. And that is if you just have between the sidewalk, and we're very aware of the overall development plan here for the curbing, the sidewalk done by others. We've seen that plan. And Jonathan was nice enough to send that to us. But there's a space between the sidewalk and the front of this building. We're saying that that space should not just be asphalt. One of their options just shows, as Adam showed you, just putting out some clothing racks on asphalt. We don't think that that meets the guidelines. So we think that there's room for landscaping. Their other two options show that, and that ought to be a condition, that there be adequate landscaping or different materials, such as, again, some type of pavement that differentiates the sidewalk from the space between the sidewalk and the building. So those are our two main concerns. Again, we think the applicant has been responsive here. We think a well-designed building now. They've responded on our design issues, but these are the two big issues to us. And we're not posing these issues in a way that we think is expensive. It's not very expensive. This is an 8-foot wide shared pathway to the entrance to the building. The difference between asphalt and pavers is relatively minor for this length of space. And also the area between the sidewalk and the building, which is the front access to the retail, just needs to have some solid landscape plan that is identified. Those two things have been left open right now. We think if you approve this, you should approve it with the conditions that you see the solution to these two items, which I hope I've been clear on. We feel that they are covered directly by the Wall Street West design guidelines. So we would just suggest that. Other than that, the applicant's been responsive, the architect's been responsive. So we think this is overall a good building, and we do recommend approval.
John, do you want to just close it out here with any specifics?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty well covered, but I'll maybe just quickly kind of try to clarify things for the commission in case that's helpful. So here's just the rendering of the proposed design again. So the recommendation of the peer reviewer was essentially boiled down to three recommended conditions of approving the project. It sounds like, if I understood Adam, who represents the applicant team correctly, they agreed to coordinate the drawings, which is the third condition of approval. And then the first two were just related to the driveway along the building here, that it double as a driveway, but also a pedestrian entrance to the buildings. And it basically function as a sidewalk and a driveway. And the kind of most straightforward reading of that would be, paved like a sidewalk with concrete, and that material wouldn't prohibit it from also functioning as a driveway. And then the front of the building as well, paving that with concrete so it can function as a sidewalk that connects to the sort of city right-of-way sidewalk. So those are the two kind of outstanding recommendations from the peer reviewer that the commission adopt. You heard earlier that Adam requested relief from those two items to kind of provide flexibility for the applicant. So I think at this point, it's open to the commission to ask any questions or clarifying questions they want of the applicant or the peer reviewer, and sort of figure out whether they want to pass the conditions as recommended by staff and the peer reviewer, or to grant the relief that the applicant team requested, or something else. But I think those are kind of the key issues open right now.
Okay, so I understand it better. Could you put the picture back up, please?
Sure.
So I understand it better. Is parking in the front where these three cars are now, or is parking in the back as well?
Zero parking.
Yeah, there's no parking for this building. The cars you see in the front are on another piece of property.
Okay.
I don't know, Jonathan, if you could put up the site plan so that they might
Can I just
see.
tell you that my
Yeah.
other neighbors are, what's a nice way of putting it? They do not invest in their properties. They, right? They have legally non-conforming situations. That those cars that are parked there, there's not one thing legal about the space. They all back into traffic. I don't know what's gonna happen to the sidewalk, but what I'm saying is it's a very non-conforming situation. This building is gonna be a glowing diamond in the rough of everything else, and it's tiny. All I'm asking for is please don't put handcuffs on me. I'm gonna have to negotiate and work with my neighbors who think they have rights that they don't. And like, I don't want to have to come back to a commission to make an agreement that, might be able to be done with just like on the back of an envelope. That's for the driveway. I'm not sure how things will shake out there, but they have to work together because none of the parking is legal. So they're blocking each other in as it is. And we understand and we want our people to be able to get in and out safely. And we plan, whether it's signage or something, we want to delineate it. We're just not sure how that will shake out. And I don't want to be bound by one solution provided by one person who's, lives and works in Manhattan, but or anybody else. And as far as the front goes, I've got over 100 retailers and commercial tenants of mine. The differences of opinions and the different needs that they want, they have to go through the permitting process anyway to get open. I don't want to add another layer to that, and I don't even know who's going to come in now, right? Like, we took 3 shots at it. It could be of a million different things, and a flat surface where it could be someone selling appliances or someone doing artwork. Like, they're going to roll out tables and have a flat surface to operate on. We're talking about a very small space. They're going to have to be creative. I like the idea of landscaping and flowers and some color. And the flower boxes on the windowsill are a definite that we plan to do. Other than that, I don't know how we'll do it. It's going to depend on the tenant. So that's all we're asking for is flexibility. And Adam said it in the beginning, nobody cares more than me. I could get to that building right now in 30 seconds. I'm sitting in my office. I can almost see it. So like, we're on it and it's going to look nice. And we're real excited about what the city's doing out front. This thing's 25 feet wide. Right? Wall Street Place across the street is like 300 feet long and wide.
And I
And-
was just trying to answer, John, for you. The cars you see on this, they're not on Jason's property. They're not on the property. They're
Okay.
on adjacent property. So all you have here is an 8-foot wide entranceway to the building. And we agree with flexibility. We're just saying that they should provide something to you as a condition in terms of what they're going to do, in terms of pavers, asphalt pavers, permeable pavers, some type of paving material that makes this look like and feel like a sidewalk as well as a driveway, because other people have the right to drive a car over that 8-foot wide driveway adjacent to the building. There's also the issue of those doors. You see the entrance doors, the 4 doors that enter into, that's the ground floor of the building. Those doors, unless they're recessed back, do open up. That's where the entrance is. So a car going by there is okay, but whatever the applicant can do, either signage, materials, or as Jonathan said, clearly adjacent, demarcating a sidewalk area, would be good in this area. To us, I think it's more than a design
We'll
issue,
agree
it's a
to that.
safety issue.
We'll
Yeah.
agree to that. We
Yeah.
will demarcate
So-
it in some fashion.
So I think it
One of our
needs to be,
choices.
yeah.
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 And zoning's gonna approve it too. Same with building. So
So,
we're aligned. It's just, I don't want to be dictated to pavers, which also are a maintenance problem and also gonna cause other issues. So we'll definitely demarcate it. We'll create a safe situation and it'll be delineated and it may evolve over time. Depending upon other uses next door. It would be great if the other landlords either move on and sell, at least one of them sell their building, or they start, investing in their assets.
so the tenants in this building park where, on the street?
Hopefully they don't have cars, but they park at Yankee Doodle or one of the other municipal garages or one of my lots down the street. And I can tell you right next door, I have 8 apartments that are, well, not next door, that are small, and they all, I would say half of them have cars. We have a big bike rack inside, a couple have electric bikes, but these are starter apartments. Not everyone has a car. And we're trying to attract those type of people because we're building the most walkable, bikeable, greenest city there is.
Okay. Any
I had
other?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Barry.
I wanted to understand about the permeability, because it looks like the doors are right at ground level. And I was just wondering, it's the reports we got said there was no permeable surfaces anywhere around. So I was just wondering about the danger of water getting into the building without it being permeable near the doors. So and then the second question I had was, were we commenting about the paint color or not? I wasn't sure if that was something that we were commenting on or not, but I was curious about, is there any advantage to thinking about permeability because you want to avoid water getting inside the ground level apartment?
MJ, do you want to deal with that issue?
Yeah. I mean, I think,
MJ, I can.
ahead,
This
Ray.
is this is Ray Sullivan. I think the most important thing for water protection is to have the finished surface slope away from the doorway. And that's what the intention is. We've been trying to work through a solution, but as we've just all discussed, that solution is a little, up in the air at this point. Permeability or not, the idea of the surface sloping away from the door is the most important thing in terms of keeping the building dry. Thank you.
And then my second question was, I wasn't clear whether we were considering or not a requirement about the paint color. So could someone just clarify if is that something we're considering or not?
What we've asked, this is Frank Fish again, we like what is shown here in the rendering. We think those colors are good. We we were not sure that the rendering is consistent with the materials palette that was shown to us, which looked a little bit darker to us. There it
Right.
is. That's the
I
materials.
understood your point you're making. I just wanted to clarify, are we being asked if that's a condition or not? I wasn't clear because when there was a summary later, I think when Jonathan gave the summary, I didn't hear him speak to the issue of paint color. So it doesn't seem, if it's not an issue, then there's no point in commenting. So maybe Jonathan, could you clarify, is this something that you're wanting us to consider as a condition or not?
I think the commission can weigh in on exterior building materials, which could extend to color. It sounded like the applicant was willing to coordinate this rendering with the proposed color scheme, was my understanding. Part of that third condition that they had agreed to, it sounded like to me.
So then could you
sorry.
clarify what the second condition was? Because I understand one was about defining the driveway. And I asked my question about permeability, but what was the second consideration? And I'm not sure what else we're being asked to consider if it's not.
The first one was the driveway here, the material of that driveway, and then the front setback here, this material as well was the second one. And then the third one was to coordinate all drawings, including coordinating the color scheme shown here with the colors shown here.
So to go, this is MJ Duskowski. To go off of what Adam had discussed earlier, the colors in the blown up elevation are the same colors that are in the rendering. So the sun and how the sun hits it, how the sun shades it, is gonna change the color. I mean, it's not gonna be an exact likeness because I mean, when you get a color from Hardy, any kind of paint color, it's gonna look darker maybe in online in a catalog, but once you get sun on it, the colors are gonna lighten.
For the record, it seems that we're on the color issue, it seems like we're splitting hairs, and I don't really have an issue with that. I do have an issue anytime there's issues of water. So that issue of permeability, to me, I thought would help with that. I do see the slope. In terms of the front, since there were the boxes, I don't have strong feelings about the front, but if there were any other materials that were used, like a sidewalk in front of the buildings, it might be nice to put it in the front. My main concern is about water.
So right now we're watertight and we're not proposing any changes to those areas. The recommendation is that we rip it up and put something else in. And we're saying we don't want to do that, but we do want to keep everyone safe. And if it turns out we get like a landscape designer that comes in there and they want to put landscaping in the front, we'll have no problem with it, right? I don't want to limit myself. It's hard to get tenants and it's hard to keep tenants. So as far as the retail goes, I want maximum flexibility, and they're going to have to come through and get permits, and they're going to have to come back to the redevelopment agency for their signage. So you're going to get another crack at, how that looks when we get a retail tenant in there. So I would say you're on the right track with leaving that alone because you get another bite at the apple. As far as the other one goes, we will agree to a condition that says we will delineate it under the guise of safety, of course. And if I can promise you, water is my biggest nightmare, and these snowstorms and ice dams are proof of that. We don't like water either. So we're on the same page there. It's just a matter of how many layers and how many people do we have to go to make a change. And we worked through this. We got most of the way, and I don't think we are splitting mostly hairs. Like, you're going to be proud of this building, everybody. I'm going to be proud of it. You're all going to be proud of it. And so it doesn't feel like we're asking for crazy stuff, right? We're just saying, let us leave what's there, and we'll make sure it just painting it. If we painted it a different color, either yellow or white line, and and put some signage, like we're talking about a couple of cars a day, like, and usually it's the guys that work there, they park and they leave again, right? So it's not like we're on a highway here.
Any other questions?
Hi, John. This is David Huvelman. I don't really have a question. I like the look of the building. I like it. I think it fits in the area. It's a nice looking building. I actually like the color scheme. It's sort of fun. It's nice. I mean, asphalt is kind of boring. I get what you're saying, Jason. It's there. But my concern is back to Mary's point, and if the drainage is working and the drainage is right, that's most important. And I know that water's there. The water's an issue always. The question I have is the driveway, nobody parks on the driveway, correct? They go back to those buildings that are sort of in the back.
Since it's not people living there right now, we have not been, strictly enforced it. But no, they have no rights to park there. It's just an access way.
So it's just an access point. I'm just concerned on the safety factor. I
Me
mean,
too.
I was looking at a satellite view. I saw a couple of big vans back, parked there and that, and, I'm thinking you get a
Then my
young,
thing is
you get a
we're gonna
young
cross the
single
street.
mom with a stroller who's living in your apartment. That's my concern about that. But as far as I like the building, Jason. I think you got a nice building here, and I think it's going to be a nice little. You mentioned diamond in the rough down there. I think it's good, and so that's all I really had to say. Not a question, just a
No,
comment.
and one thing that's a little bit tricky too with Wall Street in general, and especially some of these quirky little lots, if you take the 4 neighbors or 5 neighbors, the average size of the lot is like 2,500 to 3,000 square feet, like tiny, right? And so these, like the couple of parking spaces that he ekes out, by the way, that little grass strip that's shown in there, Ray doesn't, that's not part of our plan, but he just threw that in. That guy grows tomatoes there. The guy that owns the cafe. So
Yeah.
And as far as the trucks goes, I don't know what that is, but we've been good neighbors. They're parking their stuff and using our property to store stuff and park trucks and get deliveries. And they have the road mostly shut right now while they're getting it through the renovation. When they're done and you have on one side of the street and this side of the street, you're gonna like walking on Isaac Street. Isaac Street is gonna be very cozy, and the people that have Pontos, they're gonna have more outdoor dining there as well because they have a real big area there as well. So anyway, I think we're all on the same page here.
Yeah, it's just I mean, asphalt to me I get the use of it. It's a little boring. It would be nice if it could be something else, but I also get the practicality. If it's getting driven on over time, it's probably at this point the better solution. So
One thought I have, and I don't know that I legally can do this, and this is why I don't want to be bound to stuff because I say I do it and then I run afoul of an easement. It's like, but I'd love to put some stuff in planters along each one of these doors that will give a layer of protection and make the car, if they are driving there, drive a little farther out. But I got to work that out, and it's not. If I agree to this here, I'm not comfortable with it, right? So, but you have my word that I want them to safely get in and out, and I want it to look nice, and I want to get as much color as possible. I'm not a fan of the asphalt either, and I really don't benefit from it being asphalt because it's my neighbors that get to drive on it.
Yeah, I understand. If you didn't have the fact that it was an easement, there's a lot more you could do.
Oh, I would have no
making that
asphalt. It would
walkway
just be a
work.
walkway. I'd probably put a
Yeah.
couple of, like
But
a
I
pathway with
like
grass between.
I like the 2 window boxes that are in the front. If there's a way to carry that into the back, it ties that together. But I get, and from a safety factor, it could be nice from, what I said before. But at this point, I like the look of the building. So
Well, if you guys are comfortable with those types of solutions that we agree to create a solution like that, we're happy to show it to you, to come back for approval. I don't want, this is taking a lot longer than I wanted to already. The permit's sitting in zoning. As soon as you bless it, we're moving it along. So if you're comfortable that this tiny little building that I got 40 other buildings over here, I'm not gonna have this thing be a dangerous situation. And it's gonna be something along the lines, and I'm comfortable demarcating this in a way that works. And it may be trial and error. I may try one and then I don't like it and we go with something else. And tenants will have ideas too.
So, Chairman, could I ask then, what language are we going to put in for safety demarcation so that we can move this forward?
I would personally suggest it just going with what Frank Fish, ultimately recommended with condition one, with the understanding that we could just approve this over the counter once Jason comes back with, a solution, just some sort of contextual that related to this meeting, the discussion.
At the staff level?
Yeah, at the staff level, so you don't have to go all the way back. Just so that we get a drawing back is really what it is.
Yeah,
It's in line with this conversation.
It's a good thought.
I can live with that.
Okay.
That's fine.
I too like the building. It's, it's going to be a real diamond in the rough. It's very nice. So.
Help me fill the retail.
You want me to create a business?
No, well, when they open up Wall Street Place, it's gonna be a good, right? They're not construction for every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you comfortable with what Brian just pointed out? Jason?
Oh, so actually, I'm thinking that we will demarcate it and that we'll come back to the drawing that the staff will approve. That's great. Without giving the exact way we're going to demarcate it. Yes, I'm comfortable with that. And so Jonathan and Brian will submit it, Ray and Michael draw it up. Yes.
Okay. Is everyone else?
And I'll probably have a retail tenant by then, hopefully, and maybe we'll do the sign permitting at the same time.
Okay. Is everyone else comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
John, I'm fine with that.
Okay, will you draft the language, Jonathan and
Yeah,
Brian?
we'll put something together on that, and you just
Okay.
approve it based on the condition.
So do I have a motion to approve the proposed design with the addition of the language that he'll come back to us with the demarcation?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? So approved unanimously.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jason.
We'll be in touch soon.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, we'll be over there for a cup of coffee some morning.
Yeah, hopefully. Good.
Okay,
Well done, Adam.
so that we've taken care of that, and so now we're going to go to a work program update.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.
All right, would you like me to proceed, John?
Please.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is just a sort of general update. We try to give them every quarter at least in terms of some of the more details on the projects that we've been working on. And just want to make sure can you all hear me okay? Is that okay? Yeah. All right, awesome. All right, so I'll start kind of conceptually from the south to the north of the redevelopment planning area, starting around the South Norwalk train station. I know some of you have probably seen the work going on at the 30 Monroe project over there. It's been progressing nicely. As I mentioned at the last time we gave an update, that we've closed on that property. That property has since transferred to the developer. We recently just finished our closeout procedures with EPA, so our EPA Brownfield grant is now officially closed. We are still moving forward with the DECD grant there that we have. This was a little bit of a remnant from the developer or the development focused remediation, and just looking at the other portions of the property that actually weren't fully cleaned under a previous grant. So we've been working with legal to basically develop an environmental land use restriction on that property and kind of get through those processes in that grant specifically. That work has been done in conjunction with our planning and engineering for the improvements around Station Place, Chestnut Street, and Monroe, and specifically the area around the train station we received funding for through the Community Challenge Grant Program through DECD. We're in the process of finalizing engineering drawings for Station Place and Monroe Street, along with a police gate that needs to be at the police station that needs to be modified or improved in order to accommodate some of the operation requirements of that area based on the new plans. So those documents we're planning to issue, we're working on finalizing those and issue those for bid very soon. So that's a good progress that's occurred right over there on the infrastructure side of things. And then that will lead into, or hopefully lead into, our RAISE grant. So I know we've talked quite a bit about the RAISE program in general, and we are still in the running, which is a good thing. We've gone back and forth now with USDOT 4 or 5 times as federal requirements have had a propensity for change. as you probably have read in the news on various levels, but it's affecting us in that specific way. But the good news is that money is still, being contemplated. We've had to make some adjustments to our scope based on priorities of the administration. They expect a few months still before we get a final agreement, but USDOT has been we've been working with them very closely, and they've been very supportive in helping us kind of navigate things as they've been going on. So heading a little bit further north, we have, if you recall, we received a grant under the Reconnecting Communities program, and this was a $750,000 planning and engineering grant to look at the connections between the Wall West area and South Norwalk, particularly due to the bifurcation that I-95 had historically created in the community. This was a nationwide program that actually funded these types of projects. We were delaying sort of the design and procurement of that because the idea that we worked out with USDOT was to combine it with RAISE, since they're so integrally connected, just in terms of the MLK work that we plan to do through RAISE, and then also the Reconnecting Communities project. It got to the point where the folks at Reconnecting, USDOT, they have their funding requirements and their deadlines. They said, why don't we split this out, just because we don't want anything to happen with the money, X, Y, or Z, based on the new administration. So we actually separated that out. We just received consulting proposals today. So we're going to be moving into the planning and design phase of that, a contracting phase, very quickly, within the next couple of months here. And then we'll keep you posted on any community engagement meetings that we have, and, anything, opportunities to get involved on those projects. I think that'll be a really interesting community conversation to have. Heading further north, a lot of the work that has been wrapped up around the Pinnacle site. We were responsible for the utility work, which is completed. Now that the building's been finalized, we're working to scope out the remaining improvements that have been funded under the OPM and DECD combined TOD grant. So that's sidewalks that are going down Orchard a little bit further, looking at West Ave in the area. So now that we are not at risk of the development destroying any new investments that we put in, we are finalizing those bid packages. I hope to get that out in the spring for summer, fall construction, and then we can wrap that project up. And then finally, in terms of big updates, we have the Wall Street Place project. I'm sure you've seen the work that's been going on over there. The developer has been proceeding nicely on the work that we contemplated under the $4.4 million loan, if you recall, that we issued a few months ago. They're expecting to make their first drawdown already, so it's been moving, it's been moving nicely in accordance with the plan. We've had the external third-party reviewer, as we all discussed, out there helping us with inspections, and we'll continue to do so moving forward. From the agency perspective, one of the things that I want to start to re-engage next month and the following probably is around our strategic plan. I know we had tabled that after the holidays, and we had the election and all of the different things. So, but I've been working on some supportive analyses based on our previous discussions for further discussion next month or the following, so we can kind of get into the details of what the next 5 years look like, and get the board and everyone on the same page in that regard. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I kind of go through these relatively quickly, but it's sort of like the Cliff Notes version, and happy to dive in any further on any item.
Brian, could I just ask a favor? When you
Yeah,
do
of course.
this, could you maybe just have a map so you're pointing
Yeah.
to the areas when you do it next time? I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
pretty sure I always know where you're talking about, but also visually just seeing it also just reinforces
That's,
the
yeah,
line.
absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I have a mental map in my head, which probably you can't see. So that's
Any other questions?
No.
No? So we can move on from the work program. New business, we covered everything, I think. So everyone's, do I have a motion to adjourn, or does you want to discuss anything further? Seeing none, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
You're very fast on that one.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, all in favor? Aye, unanimous. So we'll adjourn the meeting, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
All right. Good night.
Good night.